In the quiet stillness of a December night, some people possess a knowledge that defies explanation, a premonition so precise, so chilling, that it borders on the supernatural. This is a story about a man who knew exactly how and when he would die, and the extraordinary events that unfolded in his hours. His name was David Canning, and he was not an ordinary man. A philosopher, a thinker who spent his life exploring the mysterious boundaries between consciousness and fate. But on this particular night in 1994, David was about to become something more than just a philosopher. He was about to become a living testament to one of humanity's most perplexing mysteries, the ability to predict one's own death. The small town of Bristol, England, knew David as an eccentric but brilliant academic. His colleagues respected his razor-sharp intellect, even if they sometimes found his theories about human consciousness unsettling. For years, David had studied phenomena that most scientists dismissed: precognition, intuition, the strange moments when human perception seemed to transcend linear time. But on this night, David was no longer just studying the mystery, he was living it. Earlier that evening, David had written a detailed letter, not just any letter, but a meticulously crafted document that described with startling precision the exact circumstances of his impending death. He wrote about a specific sequence of events, a particular method of dying, and even the approximate time it would occur. Most people would have dismissed such a document as the ramblings of a madman, but those who knew David understood that he was anything but irrational. His academic work had always been grounded in rigorous research, in careful observation, in a relentless pursuit of understanding human consciousness. The letter sat on his desk, sealed in a plain manila envelope, waiting. Hours passed. The night grew darker, and then, almost exactly as David had described, everything unfolded with a horrifying precision that would challenge everything we understand about fate, time, and human perception. The details were extraordinary. David had not just vaguely suggested how he might die, he had described the precise mechanism, the specific sequence of events, even the emotional and physical sensations that would accompany his moments. It was as if he was composing a detailed report about an event he had already witnessed, rather than something that was about to happen to him. Skeptics would later argue that this was coincidence, that David had simply made an educated guess, or that the subsequent events were the result of selective interpretation. But those who knew him, who had studied his work, understood that something far more profound was occurring. David's research had always explored the edges of human understanding. He believed that consciousness was not simply a product of brain chemistry, but something far more complex. A dynamic, interconnected field of perception that could, under certain circumstances, perceive events beyond the traditional boundaries of past, present, and future. His academic papers had challenged conventional scientific thinking. He argued that human intuition was not just a random process, but a sophisticated mechanism of information gathering that could, in rare instances, access information across temporal boundaries. This was not mysticism. This was a rigorous philosophical exploration of human potential. David wanted to understand how and why some individuals seemed capable of perceiving events before they occurred, and now he had become the ultimate case study in his own philosophical investigation. The hours ticked by, each moment bringing David closer to the scenario he had so meticulously described. The tension was unbearable. How could someone know with such precision the details of their own death? But David was not afraid. If anything, he approached this moment with the same intellectual curiosity that had driven his entire academic career. He was witnessing something extraordinary, and even in his moments he was observing, analyzing, understanding. As the night progressed, the events began to align with his written description. Small details, seemingly insignificant to an outside observer, matched his prediction with an accuracy that defied rational explanation. What was happening? Was this pure coincidence? A statistical anomaly? Or something far more profound about human consciousness and our perception of time? David's story challenges us to look beyond our conventional understanding of reality. It asks us to consider that perhaps, just perhaps, human perception is far more complex than we currently comprehend. This is not a tale of supernatural mysticism. This is a rigorous exploration of human potential, of the mysterious boundaries between perception, consciousness, and fate, and David Canning was about to become its most compelling evidence. The first indication that something was truly unfolding beyond mere coincidence came at precisely 11:37 p.m. In his original notes, David had described a sequence of events with mathematical precision: the soft chime of a distant church bell, the sudden flicker of the streetlight outside his study window, the specific pattern of raindrops against the glass, not a heavy downpour but a rhythmic, almost choreographed pattern of strikes. Each element materialized exactly as he had documented months earlier. His colleague, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, sat across from him, her scientific training battling against the mounting evidence before her eyes. She had initially dismissed David's predictions as an elaborate thought experiment, a philosophical provocation designed to challenge academic paradigms. Now her professional skepticism was crumbling. "You documented this months ago," she whispered, her eyes a mixture of academic fascination and genuine unease. "Every single detail." David nodded, his pulse remarkably steady. His hands, long and precise like those of a surgeon, remained motionless on the carefully annotated manuscript. The pages contained not just a prediction, but a comprehensive phenomenological analysis of what he believed was about to transpire. The manuscript was a dense academic work, filled with references to quantum mechanics, consciousness studies, and cutting-edge theories about perception. But it was also deeply personal. David had been documenting his own potential death with the same meticulous care he would apply to a groundbreaking scientific research paper. What made his work unique was not just the prediction itself, but the philosophical framework surrounding it. David argued that consciousness was not a localized phenomenon restricted to individual human brains, but a dynamic, interconnected field that could potentially transcend linear time. His theory suggested that under certain rare conditions, human perception could access information across temporal boundaries, not through supernatural means, but through complex quantum interactions that current scientific models were only beginning to understand. Dr. Rodriguez had initially been one of his strongest academic supporters, recognizing the rigor of his philosophical approach. She understood that David was not proposing mystical explanations, but rigorous scientific hypotheses that challenged conventional understanding. The quantum entanglement of consciousness, David had argued in his most controversial paper, might allow for informational transfer that appears non-linear from our current perspective. Now, as the predicted sequence of events continued to unfold with uncanny precision, even Elena found herself struggling to maintain academic detachment. The next phase of David's documented scenario involved a specific series of technological disruptions. At exactly 11:42 p.m., the digital clock on his desk would momentarily glitch, displaying a complex sequence of numbers that seemed to defy standard binary logic. When it happened, Elena involuntarily gasped. David remained calm, his eyes simultaneously observing and analyzing. He was both the subject and the researcher, experiencing and documenting a phenomenon that could potentially revolutionize human understanding of consciousness and perception. What was truly remarkable was not just the prediction itself, but the complete lack of fear David exhibited. Most individuals confronting a potentially fatal scenario would be consumed by terror. David approached it with the same intellectual curiosity that had dared his entire academic career. The night continued its inexorable progression, each moment another data point in what might become the most significant philosophical and scientific case study of human perception in generations. The digital clock's glitch lasted precisely 3.7 seconds. Elena watched, her academic skepticism warring with an emerging sense of profound understanding. David's breath remained measured, his pupils dilating almost imperceptibly as the numerical sequence flickered. "The quantum signature," he murmured, more to himself than to Elena, "matches the preliminary projection in Section 7, Subsection 3. Outside, the city's electrical grid seemed to pulse with a strange synchronized rhythm. Street lamps dimmed momentarily, traffic signals flickered, and the low hum of electronic infrastructure carried an unusually resonant undertone. Elena realized David wasn't just predicting events, He was experiencing a form of temporal synchronicity that defied conventional scientific explanation. His manuscript was not merely a prediction, but a living document of consciousness interacting across dimensional boundaries. As midnight approached, David's physical form began to subtly change, not in any grotesque or supernatural manner, but with a gradual energetic shift that Elena could perceive more through intuition than visual confirmation. His cellular structure seemed to be negotiating some complex quantum transition. The membrane between perceptual states is thinner than we ever imagined, David said, his eyes calm and clinical. Consciousness isn't a singular experience, but a dynamic field of potential interactions. A soft electromagnetic pulse rippled through the room. The manuscript's pages began to flutter, not from wind, but from some internal energetic resonance. Each page seemed to carry a memory, a potential timeline, a fragment of David's complex theoretical landscape. Elena understood now that David wasn't just a researcher, he was a living experiment, a consciousness exploring the very boundaries of human perception. His work transcended traditional academic boundaries, bridging quantum physics, neuroscience, and philosophical inquiry. The hour moments approached with mathematical precision, David's breathing synchronized with some unseen rhythmic pattern. His eyes, once sharp and analytical, now carried a profound, almost translucent quality, as if he was simultaneously present and departing. Remember, he whispered to Elena, documentation is not just about recording, it's about understanding the interconnected nature of experience. Then, in a moment that defied linear description, David's form began to integrate with the surrounding quantum field. Not a disappearance, but a transformation. His consciousness expanded, dispersing into a complex network of informational patterns that Elena could sense but not fully comprehend. The manuscript remained, its pages now subtly glowing with an inner luminescence. Elena realized she was witnessing something beyond death, a radical reimagining of human transition. As dawn broke, the room settled into a profound silence. The manuscript lay open, its pages filled with intricate diagrams, mathematical equations, and philosophical annotations. David was gone, yet simultaneously present in every carefully constructed paragraph. Elena understood that her role now was not to mourn, but to continue the exploration. David's work was not an endpoint, but a profound beginning, an invitation to reimagine the very nature of human consciousness. Outside, the city awakened, unaware of the extraordinary quantum transition that had just occurred in this quiet research space. But for Elena, everything had fundamentally changed. Elena approached the manuscript with reverent hands, understanding that her touch would now carry a different significance. The pages seemed to pulse with an inner intelligence, revealing layers of complexity that David had spent his entire life decoding. She began methodically archiving his research, knowing each document represented not just academic work but a profound exploration of human consciousness. Fragments of quantum entanglement theories, neural network mappings, and philosophical annotations created a mosaic of understanding that transcended traditional scientific boundaries. In the weeks following David's transition, Elena discovered encrypted digital files hidden within seemingly mundane research notes. These files contained complex algorithmic representations of consciousness states, not just theoretical models, but potentially executable frameworks for understanding human perception beyond linear dimensions. Her colleagues at the Research Institute remained skeptical, viewing David's work as an elaborate but ultimately speculative investigation. They couldn't comprehend the nuanced shifts Elena had witnessed. To them, scientific research demanded empirical, measurable outcomes. They couldn't perceive the subtle quantum interactions that David had dedicated his life to exploring. Elena's own research began to evolve, influenced by her extraordinary experience. She started documenting not just David's theoretical work, but the phenomenological experience of witnessing a consciousness expansion. Her notes became a bridge between traditional scientific documentation and a more holistic understanding of human potential. The manuscript remained her most sacred artifact, as a testament to David's radical vision. Its pages contained more than scientific notation. They represented a profound philosophical journey into the nature of existence itself. Each diagram, Each equation carried an energetic signature that seemed to resonate beyond conventional academic understanding. As months passed, Elena realized that David's work was never about proving a singular theory, but about opening doorways of perception. His transition was not an ending, but a continuous exploration of consciousness that transcended physical limitation. The city outside continued its rhythmic pulse, unaware of the extraordinary intellectual and spiritual transformation occurring within this quiet research space. Elena understood now that true scientific breakthrough wasn't about conclusive statements but about maintaining an perpetual state of wonder and investigation. She carefully sealed David's manuscript in a specialized archival container, knowing that its significance would eventually be understood by those prepared to look beyond conventional boundaries of human experience. The research would continue. The exploration would persist, and somewhere in the complex quantum landscape of consciousness, David's investigative spirit remained vibrantly alive.